all good companies came from either good or bad ideas and evolved in what they are now.
We need a good idea to produce a business, and we need innovation and creativity to keep that business going, keeping it ahead of the rest. Okay, so welcome everybody to today's podcast, and today I'm interviewing Mark Innegrove, my co-trainer, just so we can talk about the role of creativity in business. So Mark, are you there?
Yes, I am, Adrian.
Okay, excellent, because Mark, what I want to talk about today is the aspects of creativity in business, because you know what? When I hear the term creativity, it makes me think of artists and, people cutting things out of pieces of paper, and I don't really link it to business. So I'm interested on how you see it all fitting together. So, first thing I want to start to consider is your background. You were teaching creativity modules on MBA courses, is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. I've been doing that both in the UK, but also in Ethiopia, in Russia, in Moscow, and in different other European countries as well. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so tell us, why would you include creativity on an MBA program? Because for me, the things don't fit together.
Well, Adrian, they actually do fit together very much so. See it in this way. Creativity is your way, your process, your internal strategy that makes so that you have new ideas. And so creativity and having new ideas is at the basis of growth, is at the basis of innovation, it's at the basis of everything a business stands for. Imagine this, that you would want to start a new company, or any company, and you don't have an idea what to do. Where do you think the idea is coming from? Well, that's right, it's coming from creativity. All good companies came from either good or bad ideas and evolved in what they are now in executing whatever the idea was at some point in time, okay?
So that's the thing, isn't it? We need a good idea to produce a business, and we need innovation and creativity to keep that business going, keeping it ahead of the rest.
That is correct, and it doesn't even have to be a good idea. I mean, a lot of really business successes came out of bad ideas. Let me give you an example. If you take the Post-it, which is the 3M product, the Post-it is actually a result of a bad idea about glue. They wanted a glue that was really sticky, and they found a glue that was not that sticky at all. And it took even quite a few years to find out what they would do with that not so good glue, until somebody had a new idea and said, you know what if we put this on paper and we make something that we can stick on something and then take away again, and you have the Post-it.
So that's the thing, isn't it? Like, people coming up with those new ideas, which are really, they're often just like a reframe, to put in NLP terms, a reframe of an original idea.
Absolutely.
Like, look at it from a different perspective. So here's a big question. So where do those new ideas come from? Because people often have problems coming up with new ideas. So where do you think they come from?
There's no way to tell where good ideas come from. I think that one of the most important skills that are needed to get good ideas is to stimulate the possibility to give the wrong meaning to the right word or the right meaning to the wrong word. What I mean by that is gain the flexibility in your mind to associate two ideas together without them being really related, okay? And then second thing, don't criticize something that looks stupid at first, because it might be useful. there might be some good things in it that you could use to solve a problem, create a new product, or do something that puts you ahead of the competition.
I remember on the last business practitioner that we taught, we did a thing about brainstorming, like a more useful way to apply brainstorming. And one of the things I've noticed with brainstorming is that, like in businesses now, because they're so left brain focused, they remove the actual the magic from doing that technique. So that the whole magic of brainstorming was to come up, like to have free thinking ideas, but the criticism of those ideas too early is what kills them. So I found that to be very interesting what you did.
Yeah, that is correct. Also, there's a couple of problems with the way that brainstorming is perceived in companies or done in companies and so on. Obviously, the what you call left brainers, it's not a rational process, brainstorming, and for a lot of people, it looks like a waste of time, and unfortunately, often it is. And the reason for being a waste of time is that it is a job, it's a skill, it's something that you need to master, it's something that you need to manage in a professional way. It's not just shouting out and writing ideas on a piece of paper or on a post-it that is sufficient. Because first of all, when you do a brainstorm, there's all kinds of people in that brainstorm, and you have to take into account all the, which we call in NLP, all the meta programs of all these people, so that you have a really effective brainstorm and can capture ideas from very different types of people. The second thing that you have to do then is having the ideas, having 100, having 200, having 300 ideas, it's not a result. It's a chaotic nightmare. So apart from having the creativity process, you also need to have the filtering process. You have to have the decision-making process, and then the planning, and then work the ideas out. And you cannot work out 300 ideas. You have to decide first which is the good idea, which is the idea that will make the difference, and that has the best potential. And mind you, I'm not saying the most realistic idea, because usually that's limited by the belief of the participants. You want to have the idea that has the best potential and work on those to make something and to get a result out of your brainstorm. But if people don't do that, and if people can't stand waiting until they go through that whole process, of course it will not work. Of course it will be a problem.
So really, it's part of a strategy that really needs to have all the steps followed to get the full result from it.
Precisely. You not only need a creativity strategy, you need the time to explore, you need the time to be creative, but then you need the strategies to decide, to filter, to plan, and those are really left brain strategies. Some of them are really left brain strategies, but you need to postpone them until you have enough ideas, until you found enough liberty and enough safe space to create enough ideas to choose from, because otherwise you'll be choosing between one and one idea, and that's no choice.
And this isn't just product development either. I mean, it's like it's problem solving, really, isn't it?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned it, because not so long ago I was doing a one-day session for a production company, a chemical production company, and I was working with actually the team leaders and the supervisors of the production lines. And the reason why they were interested in creativity and in tools around creativity is that they wanted to have more effective problem-solving tools on the work floor, so that problems could get solved more easily. And they wanted to have that in their production, because it would help them to become more lean being their operational excellence program, to be more productive and to be more efficient. and creativity was an essential part of that. Okay, so yeah, it's a lot more than just innovation, thinking of new products or marketing. No, this is really hardcore business money making.
Mm. Yeah, now I think about it, like most businesses, like when they get stuck, like it's a lack of creativity, that causes people to get stuck often. You know, when they're doing the same thing time and time again, and it's only when necessity rears its head because a competitor's come up with a new product that they actually think about changing. I mean, do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Don't tell me. It's the first necessity, the first absolute given for creativity is your state. It's your mental state.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the big things when you're in a business, that most people who are very good at organization and like actually setting businesses up, are actually different to an entrepreneur who comes up with the ideas. So sometimes we need to like cross over skills really. We need to start to think about how, like, because sometimes the organized people like haven't got the creativity skills, particularly they can't change their state. Like that could be part of it. Do you agree?
Having some people, some experts that have then a less level or would have a lesser level of creativity or more difficulty to access a particular state, you would arrange that in a different way. You would set up like a couple of people where you have one person taking up the role of a facilitator who would be responsible of getting the whole team then in that particular state together. Second, you would compose that team of different types of personalities and different skill levels or skills so that you really build a cross-functional team that can create sometimes really strange effects in the sense that how often is it that somebody from sales doesn't get too well along with somebody from operations, and then you have the marketing person in between that as well. Now, it's up to the facilitator to make sure that this team feels comfortable together, get them in the right state, and making sure that, suppose that a marketing person comes up with the most weird idea, that the operations guy doesn't immediately shut that idea down with, oh, this is not possible, or vice versa. Okay, so there's really an important role for a facilitator, for a business person, to go through very dedicated special stages, which you can learn and which we teach, of course, in the course. This is a skill. It's a skill to get people through that process. Okay, it's a skill to master that process for yourself, and it's a skill that's unfortunately not very well developed in our education or at school, other than here's a white paper, draw something. Okay, it's not the same.
Yeah, that's very interesting because really this links up with change management at a very high level. When you think about it in terms of like the people have to change like rapidly. Like look at Brexit for example. Like people are having to think about how the changes are going to affect their business. That produces problems. We need to think of solutions to solve those problems rapidly, and we also then need to be creative to come up with solutions. So really, it's a big part of change management, isn't it?
Very much so. If you look at how people change and how groups of people change, um, there's so many things that you have to take into account. You have the creation of the options. Even going through a change, suppose that you have to get a whole country out of the EU, like in the Brexit. There are numerous ways of doing this. And if you don't consider that there are many ways, you will not even think about it. Those are different options, those are different ways. Both also in the negotiations. If you go to a negotiation with only your fixed ideas of how it should be and what you should get out of it, I mean, the strength of a negotiation position is in the hands of the person who has most options.
So really, creativity comes in at every level, doesn't it? If you think about it, because it could come in with coming up with a new name for your business or a new name for the product, a new product. You could be thinking about the like when you're developing that product, you've got change management to look at, and then you've got to change your systems. So really, everything has got to be linked to solving problems, which is really creativity in a nutshell.
But it will only work if you have a solid follow-up through execution. If you don't execute, your creativity will lead to nothing. So even though this is at the basis of everything, this 1 hour of creativity can produce months of execution. Because if we don't do the execution after the creativity, people tend to disregard creativity as just something that leads to nothing.
So is there a good strategy for this, like a very well laid out strategy for it?
There are a few good strategies. There are a few good techniques. There's a lot of good techniques. And again, it comes down to skill and skill in applying those strategies. If you read through the material of somebody like Richard Branson, of Virgin, which is one of the most respected businessmen, before he starts a business, he writes it out in detail, completely in detail, how it will work, what seats will be in the airplanes, and so on, and so on, and so on, before he even starts it. So that's the Nikola Tesla approach.
So they run the idea in their minds first.
They run their ideas in their minds first, very, very, very much so. And the creativity is there very much an internal process. And then the other one is somebody starts a company with just an idea and goes off his feeling and then notices something's not working and adapting. And it's a very adaptive way. And it's almost like how an airplane flies from Brussels to New York. They never go straight, it's always adapting until they actually arrive in the airport.
I suppose cost is a factor. Like the more you're doing it in real time, like with reality, it's going to cost you more than if you're just running in your head.
Exactly, that was the criticism of Tesla to Edison, which Edison did not appreciate.
Okay, fantastic. So just to finish off, let's just consider what is it that you teach on the NLP Business Practitioner course. So the part on creativity is always left to you. So, because you're a master in the field, so tell the audience what it is that they're going to learn.
Well, what I really would want them to learn is a couple of things. First of all, I want them to get a feel of how to do a process of creativity, how to get to a couple of steps so that you have good solid ideas, actually can filter them out and lead them to an idea that you can work out in an implementation plan. So not only getting the ideas, but also bringing them also to realization, because otherwise people will get stuck on their way, okay, and they lose faith in creativity. And I learned them a couple of techniques that also deal with, well, how do you adapt this process to the people with different personalities, which we would call in NLP different meta programs. How to adapt a process that you can include all talents that you have in your company, that you have in your team, in that creativity process, so that it leads to really good and excellent results. That's what I'm teaching.
Okay, excellent. So good and excellent results, that's what we're moving towards. So that seems like a good place to wind it up. So thank you very much, Mark, for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Adrian. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, thank you. And join us next time where we're going to have a look at some more aspects of NLP and put into a business setting. Thank you very much.